These are the top 5 mistakes I see anglers most commonly make when pole fishing. Now welcome back to the channel everyone, and in this video, as I mentioned, I'm going to look at the 5 key mistakes that I think people make when they're pole fishing. Now you could be a newcomer to pole fishing, you could be an established pole angler. The 5 things that I'm going to mention today will help you catch more fish, and hopefully they're easy things to put right as well. They're not nothing complicated, we're not like trying to make up new rules for fishing or anything like this. It's just simple tweaks to your approach that will help you catch more fish. So whether you're a match angler and you're looking to win more matches, or whether you're just a newcomer to pole fishing who just wants to catch more fish, these 5 things will definitely help you catch them. Now before we get to mistake number 1, could you all do me a favour? Please subscribe to the channel, it's totally free to do so. Could you press us a like as well, and maybe even leave me a comment what videos you'd like to see me do, maybe more top 5s that we could cover. That would be fantastic. The more people that like this video, the more content I can make. Okay, tip number 1 is all about plumbing up when you're pole fishing. Now, probably the best thing about pole fishing, and the thing that makes it sets it apart from other methods of float fishing, is the accuracy factor. You can just do things so much more precise than you ever could with a waggler, a stick float, any other kind of floats that you would use on a rod and line. It is so precise, and that is the number 1 advantage that you are going to get if you become a pole angler for the first time. And being able to plumb up accurately is one of the major things as well. It is so crucial. You can get your float ever so precise, literally so your hook bait is just touching the bottom, and you're going to catch loads more fish. When you're fishing with a waggler or a stick float, you're always going to be a little bit off because you can't plumb it up the same. So it's essential that when we have that advantage that we use it. So get the plummets right, make sure you plumb up nice and accurately. Now, one of the mistakes that I see so many anglers make, if you're in a line of anglers in a match or even just pleasure fishing and you look along, people will ship the pole out, and they'll, with a plummet on, this is at the start of the match or when they're getting set up, and they'll ship out and they'll plumb up, but the plummet will be your side of the pole tip. What you need to do when you're plumbing up is to get out to where you are fishing, the sort of distance you're fishing, lift your pole up, lift the plummet out of the water, and allow everything to straighten up. If you just ship out and just go like that with your plummet, the plummet's going to be this side of the pole tip, so you're not going to get an accurate reading. You could be over depth, you're just going to get a false reading that is no good whatsoever. So you must, and when you ship out, lift that pole up, allow the plummet to be seen on the surface, even leave it for a few seconds if you must, let it sort of come nice and still so the rig's not swinging like a pendulum, then lower it down and find your mark. That is so important. That is, I see even good anglers, like you look along and you ship out and they like that, and they're not quite bang on under the pole tip, they're this side of the pole tip. That's such a common mistake. That is really important, and you could end up a float's length over depth when you're not, when you're trying to plumb up like as accurately as possible. So don't make that mistake. Take your time when you're plumbing up, have a real good feel around at what you're doing, but more importantly, when you are shipping your pole out, make sure you lift that pole and that plummet out of the water, lift the pole up high, lift the plummet out of the water, let the rig straighten, and then drop it down. Seems like such a small detail, but I see so many anglers make that mistake, and it is one of the biggest mistakes you can make when you're setting your pole rigs up. Mistake number 2, and it is having too many rig options. And by rig options, I kind of mean floats. You know, I know what it's like. I fell into this trap before. When you're fishing and you're looking on the internet at videos and stuff, there's this float for this float for that, a float for this, a float with a thicker tip, a thinner tip, a different shape. Look, this is especially true if you're a newcomer to pole fishing. You don't need a million different float patterns. Of course, if you are fishing rivers, canals, commercials, still waters for natural fish, like the roach and skimmers, you're probably going to need a bit of variation and a few different rigs. But if you're like most pole anglers these days, go to commercial fisheries a lot, you're fishing for carp and F1s, the last thing you need is a million different pole floats. You just don't need them. What you're better off doing is picking 2 or 3 patterns that you think can make across the section of angling that you're going to do. So you want something for open water, which would be something like a cypri or a collet, depending what sort of species you're fishing for. So if you're fishing for F1s, a cypri will cover you, which is a nice slim shape, 1.7mm tip. It's going to do you for all sorts of baits for F1 fishing. If you're fishing for big carp, then something like a collet would cover you for all your deep open water style fishing. fishing on the bottom with those two floats. If you're an F1 angler, Cypri. If you're a carp angler, collet. So they're the floats for that kind of fishing. Then again, if you're fishing in the margins, you're going to need something shorter, a nice little short float that is going to be like the perfect in proportion for fishing in 3 foot of water or less. So you might need, again, if you're F1 fishing, a Diablo, but if you're fishing for carp, a Fury. So you've got two different options there. So you're covered with those floats. And then the same goes for shallow fishing. If you're fishing shallow, a big head is probably going to do you for loads of fishing. If you want to get a little bit fancy, maybe a clunk for like long lining, and maybe a jigger. If you go to a lot of F1 fishing, jiggers are important. So although I've named a couple of floats there, it's kind of keeping everything quite small. I don't see, my rigs are very, very simple. I try and keep it as simple as I possibly can. I use floats that I get to sort of get familiar with. I get to use them. I know how they work, and I make them work. I see no end of people. When we've done coaching days this summer, I give them my rig draw, and they can't believe how few floats I've got. And it's so important. That is, it's one of the biggest things I think is simplifying your setup. So you can, fishing is all about feeding, location, the what, where and when. It's not about having millions of different pole floats. The pole float is just purely a tool to help you do the job. It's so important not to get lost in all that, not having fancy rigs, not having stuff that, look, they're the intricate details that could help you catch an odd more fish, but ultimately we want to do the basics well, and having the right floats is so important. But having a small selection, I see no end of people when we go on them coaching days, you take their rig tray out and they've got 1.5 mil, 1.7, 2 mil, 2.5, 3 mil tips. They've got slim bodies, fat bodies, round bodies. They've got dibbers. They've got this. And every time they go fishing, they must be using a different float. That's not how you get ahead. You want to get ahead by using the same things over and over again. Get familiar with them, and then just simplify it. And then you can focus on the important bit, which is the feeding, the what, where, and when. What do they want to eat? Where do they want to eat it? And when? That is the most important part of pole fishing. Right, mistake number 3, and it's a really common one. It comes down to pole roller position. Now, I'm just going to say it. I think that all pole anglers should have 2 pole rollers. I know it's a bit of an outlay to buy 2 pole rollers, but I think it is very important to have 2 pole rollers. If you want to fish any distances sort of beyond 6 or 7 meters, 2 pole rollers are going to make your life so much easier. So that's a big thing. I see a lot of anglers struggling with 1 pole roller, and by the time they get shipped back, the pole's like this over the back, and you think, oh no, it's going to break, it's going to break. Don't do that. Poles are expensive. Look after them. Buy yourself 2 pole rollers. But it's the actual positioning of those rollers that I think that so many anglers get wrong. Even when fishing short poles, I see so many anglers set the roller up too close to them so that they're not actually on the roller, they're just struggling. The first roller, I think, should be roughly 5 meters behind you. It should be sort of that, just top kit and 2, just gets onto it nicely. Because let's be honest, when you're fishing short, you don't need to roll the pole over the roller. It should be in your hands, really, because it's a light bit of kit anyway. So really, the bottom end of the pole should just be getting caught by the roller at the very end. You should almost be taking your top kit and 2 apart, putting your pole sections down. You're not really using the roller as a roller when you're fishing short. So as long as your pole is resting on the roller when you've put it in your pole sock or your tulip, whatever you use, then it's fine, it's protected. But we're not really using the roller as a roller when you're fishing short. In my opinion, you're kind of using your arms more. So for that reason, you kind of want to put it just so it's catching the pole, and then what'll happen is you'll ship back with your fish, and by the time the weight's behind you with your sections, your pole will feel a little bit like back heavy, perfect to go down on the roller, absolutely perfect. That way as well, when it comes to filling your pot up, it's obviously on the roller, but as soon as you take it off the roller, the pole's going to sort of seesaw and feel very comfortable to ship out with your pole pot full of bait. So you're not like, I see people having the roller too close to them, they're trying to ship out across the roller, and before they know it, the bait spilled out everywhere. So no good at all, that. And the same goes for your 2 roller setups. Now, you kind of want the first one to be about, like I say, top kit and 2, maybe top kit and 3 behind you, then ship out. And then the next one should be sort of 2 sections behind that, I think, about 2.5 sections. So let's just like an imaginary scenario. So your first roller should be kind of on your, let me think, it's like top kit and 2, top kit and 3 joint, that sort of 5 to 6 meter joint. And then the next one, I think, should be just onto your coloured section. So 11.5 sort of to 30 metres area, the roller should be there. Obviously, if you're fishing 16 metres, you might have to push the whole two rollers back a bit just to take over the balance. But let's be honest, not a lot of us are fishing 16 metres now, and it's very rare you can get 16 metres back in one go. So it's important to just think about that. Use a roller that's got the central support so you can break down twice and then put it in your pole sock. But yeah, I think as a general guide, having the first roller onto your sort of end of your 5 metre, 6 metre section, sort of just to catch that bit, and then the next one just on that joint of your coloured section will do you absolutely proud. Now, in a perfect scenario, if you're say fishing 30 metres, you want to be having your pole across your two rollers, nice and secure. You don't even need a pole sock in reality because it's kind of all doing it for you. It's perfectly balanced. But we know that sometimes your pole's going to be on a slight angle and it's going to be trying to get in the lake, so you'll need the pole sock. But if you can get it where your rollers are just perfectly flat and your pole will sit there, you've got your roller set up absolutely lovely. If it's tilting up like that and your number 3 is going up in the air, then it might be that the back roller is too close to you and it's creating that pivot, so you just need to nudge that back roller back. So that is just an important point to make. Mistake number 4 when it comes to pole cut position, again, it kind of is what I mentioned about tip number 1, really, the fact that the pole, the number 1 like benefit of it is the unbelievable accuracy that we get with it, whether that comes to plumbing up, rig presentation, or more importantly feeding. You can feed with a pole like unbelievably accurately, and it's important to use that to its maximum effect. So most poles come with a cupping kit, or you can buy a cupping kit to go with it, and it is just a standalone top kit with a cup attached to the end of it. It's perfect for introducing larger amounts of bait, balls of ground bait, large pots of pellets, large pots of maggots, that kind of thing. But it stands to reason that that needs to be exactly the same length as the top kit that you're going to use with your rig on it for fishing. It has to be the same length, otherwise you could be feeding past your bait, you could be fishing past your bait, short of your bait. It's just a nightmare. If you don't know exactly where that is, then it's just an absolute nonsense. So luckily most poles nowadays come with cupping kits that are purposely designed for the top kit. But I have to say, I've seen quite a lot of people still with their pole pot like that much further longer than their top kits, or shorter than their actual fishing top kits. You know, if you are feeding that much short, then it's obviously, or even like worst case scenario, you could be quite a long way back. By the time you haven't quite lined up your arm properly or whatever, you could be nowhere near where your main mat of bait is. Now, there are advantages sometimes to fishing past your bulk of your feed, but that's like a specialist situation, and I think it's good practice to always be bang on your feed as a rule, and then you can experiment in fishing past your bait or short of your bait or to the left or the right. But to actually get the basics right of pole fishing, we need to be accurate. So make sure your cupping kit is exactly the same length as your top kit. That'll make a massive difference over the course of a year. It'll catch you more fish when you bang on your feed. The same can be said for your little pole pots. Everyone's got a load of pole pots in their armoury these days. But again, I see so many people have the pole pot sat like this far back from the pole tip because they think they're going to get entangles or whatever, or the pole pot slides that far back. You want your pole pot to be as close to the tip as you can comfortably fish with it. If you fish it right on the end, sometimes it can create tangles, so you might not want that. But if you can get it sort of 2 to 3 inches back from the pole tip, that is going to make a massive difference. If it's a foot back or even further, you see some people's pole pots are like 18 inches back. No good. You've got to be as accurate as you can with your pole. It is the biggest advantage it's got, so why not use it? It's really, really important to be accurate with your pole pots. Get your cupping kit the same length. Get those pole pots nice and snug on the tip. And if your pole pots are a bit too big for your top kit and you feel like they're sliding too far back, just get some electrical tape, put a little band of that right around the tip of the pole, and it'll just fit on there snug and be in the perfect position. So quick little tip there, and that is a really important one. Get your cupping kit and your pole pots exactly where they need to be so you're feeding accurate. Now, mistake number 5 is pole elastic choice, and it could be that you're using too light or too heavy. Nowadays, pole fishing, we are using puller kits a lot. So if you've never fished a pole before and you're wondering what am I on about with a puller kit, it's a little hole in the side of your top kit that allows you to manually tension your elastic when you're playing fish. A little bit like a reel on a rod. Just allows you to strip some elastic out of your top kit, get some more tension and play the fish a bit nicer than having loads and loads of elastic out. It's very, very common practice now. You know, like the more experienced among you will all be using puller kits week in, week out. They're absolutely fantastic. The one drawback is there can be the temptation to fish too light an elastic for the actual appropriate situation. Now, allow me to explain. Our white zip is a fantastic all-round elastic. It's great if you're going on a venue where you're going to catch F1s, big skimmers, bream, tench, odd carp. It's fantastic. But I wouldn't necessarily use it if I was catching £4 to £10 carp every single chuck in. Yeah, you're going to land them, no problem. But when it comes to actually netting the fish, what you're going to have to strip too much elastic out of your puller kit, and what happens is you end up with the elastic completely bottomed out in your hand. And you'll all know what I mean when you strip too much elastic out. There's no stretch left in the elastic, and it's like that bang, bang, bang on your rod, on your top kit, almost like you're fishing with a rod because you've taken all the stretch out of the elastic. You've bottomed it out completely. There's no give left, and you're playing the fish just on the hook hold when it's like that. You've lost all your elasticity out of your elastic because you're using an elastic that's too light for the job in hand. You've had all this elastic come out, and you've had to strip it right back until you've banjo stringed it, and it's just like that on the thing, and you lose so many fish like that. You'll like break hook lengths, you'll pull hooks out, no good at all. What you want is to always feel like, yes, you've got to use the puller, but when you're using the puller, you're just doing it just to bring a bit of elastic towards you to play the fish. If you can play fish with only 1 or 2 strips of the puller, I think your elastic choice is about bang on. If you're having to like banjo string the elastic, don't get me wrong, there's often times when you hook a really big fish and you've got to take a lot more elastic out. I'm just talking in the main though. If you're hooking an F1 and you only need 1 or 2 strips of your puller, I think that means that you've got around about the right elastic choice. So it like a lot of situations, the white feels lovely, but like I said, then you've got to banjo it. So I would always use the black. I think it just going one step up is better than fishing too light, if that makes sense, because you've always got a bit when you've got the fish under your feet, playing it on the top, you've always got that little bit more give than you would if you absolutely tightened it up to the max to play them. So that's just a point. Light elastics are great, but going too light for the situation is actually worse sometimes than using a too heavy elastic or a heavier elastic. You actually lose more fish with the light elastic tightened up to the max to land them than you would on a heavier elastic, is the point I'm trying to make. And then on the flip side to that, sometimes you can use an elastic that's too heavy for the situation. So everyone knows that I love the pink zip, the 18 plus, fantastic for carp fishing, but I'd never use that for like F1s or big skimmers, for instance. It would just be too much, and you would bump fish on the strike in that situation. So you can be too heavy and you can be too light on commercial fisheries. It's all about that, just getting into that just right zone where the elastic is doing the work for you and you're not absolutely tightening it up to the max, or it's not too heavy in the first place. So there you go, 5 common mistakes that I see. There's tons more. So if you like this kind of video, then I'll do more of them. Let me know in the comments below. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and we'll see you again on the next video.